Okay, we're live. Hello, welcome to the Cinema Savvy Movie Podcast. I'm Chris Garner, joined with my co-host for today, George Aldridge. Originally, we were hoping for like the full gang on this one. Tom and Tate. Tate's currently flying somewhere, either flying to or flying back. So he can't get on today. And Tom, we kind of just haven't heard from him. So we're going to be taking on this one again. So our review for today will be Suicide Squad. It's the third installment in the new DCU, directed by David Ayer, starring Will Smith, Jared Leto, Margot Robbie, and a bunch of other cast members. Big supporting cast in this one. And it seems to be another divisive film for DC. Man of Steel being the first one, Batman v Superman. You've got a lot of DC fanboys that stand in its corner. You've got a lot of people saying that they're bad films. And this one isn't stranger to that. It's absolutely exactly the same. So me and you agreed that we should probably give our thoughts on DC in general first to kind of clear the water, to put the fanboys at ease. You want to kick off first, and then I'll sort of follow after you.
Yeah, so I love DC Comics. I think I said in the Batman and Superman one, I own a lot of them. I've had all the video games. I watch Flash, Arrow, all that stuff. I'm far more of a DC fan than I am of Marvel. I do like Marvel, though. I'm not into this Marvel v DC war. I hate it. It's petty and pathetic. But at the end of the day, someone gives me a Batman film or an Iron Man film, I'll pick Batman every time.
Yeah.
And I just want them to make some good films.
Yeah.
They have made good films before.
Yeah. Nolan Batman trilogy. Well, regardless of my thoughts on Dark Knight Rises, those films are just fantastically made films. I'm kind of exactly the same as well. I love DC. I own a few Batman comics. Batman's my favorite superhero or favorite fictional character of all time. I love the universes, rogues gallery, everything like that. And as you just said, if a Batman movie comes out, I'm absolutely there for it. And I like these characters, and I think that DC are now in a position where, with the TV shows, what is it, The Legends of Tomorrow or whatever it's called, and Arrow and Flash, they're in a really interesting position where these characters that they've never brought to the small screen or the big screen before, they've now got the chance to do it. And that's why I was really looking forward to Suicide Squad. I knew most of the cast, I knew most of the characters like Captain Boomerang, Deadshot, and things like that, but there was a few in there that I hadn't even heard of, like El Diablo, for example. And I was really looking forward to this one. And then, you know, initially the reviews came out for it saying it wasn't that good. And I didn't even really know what to expect, because I hated Man of Steel. I hated Batman v Superman even more than Man of Steel. So at this point, I was kind of just, you know, entertain me. I know it's not going to be fantastic, but the cast look like they've been well cast. They look like they've got some great chemistry with each other. And I want to see a new representation of the Joker on the big screen following Heath Ledger. It's the first cinematic appearance of Harley Quinn. So there was a lot of interesting stuff in there, and the director as well, David Ayer, Fury, End of Watch, isn't it? I think he did, and Sabotage, things like that. So there was real talent behind this one, as well as the cast. And then I kind of, well, we should talk about the trailers as well, and we'll go much more in depth into like the whole tonal shift between it. But the first trailer came out for it, and it was very dark. It was very somber. It played I Started the Joke, BG's cover, and I loved the atmosphere for it immediately. I've gone on record before saying I really don't like the dark, serious tone of the previous DC movies. But for Suicide Squad, when you've got a whole cast of like despicable, evil, horrible people, I think that's kind of a good opportunity to explore the dark stuff, especially with like keeping them in like all detained and everything like that. And then as the marketing went on, there was just that shift in it. And I think you mentioned, because we've spoken a bit about our thoughts on this before, so we're not going completely blind into each other's opinions on this one, but like the whole color scheme, and I'm looking at the theatrical poster now, and it's a fantastic poster, don't get me wrong. It's really, really different. It's quirky. It's visually impressive, but it's such a far cry from how originally this film was marketed.
I think if you look at the three trailers they released, the first one's black background. It just says Suicide Squad. The second one's got a few colors coming out, and then the third one's just all out there. Green, pink, purple, whatever it was, which is, but It's when I saw that first trailer, I was sold on that straight away. I wasn't sold. I remember with you, we were doing the new stuff when there were set pieces where we're a bit like, oh, this doesn't really, look like anything good. And then the first trailer was quality, I thought. And
Yeah.
the second trailer, I enjoyed it with the Queen music and stuff. But a bit different. I could dig it. Obviously, the furthest post. And then the third trailer was just a bit too out there. And to me, I was still looking forward to it, but a lot of the jokes didn't hit in the trailer. And it seemed, I don't want to compare to Marvel, very Guardian-ish.
Yeah.
Which, okay, a lot of films have started marketing that way. Star Trek Beyond did it. It's becoming a trend to have a lot of pop music over sort of sci-fi stuff. And it just seemed very different to what I was expecting, but also I think what a lot of people expected, given the work of David Ayer as well. Is very, very different for what he's done. I mean, I think he was a Marine or he's ex-military, something like that. End of Watch is a brutal film. Fury is obviously a brutal film. Sabotage I haven't seen, but that's meant to be quite dark and actually at times, whereas this, it's the first trailer goes, yes, this looks like a David Ayer film, and then he gets that final one. It seemed like it was his. I was very cautious compared to the Zone.
Yeah, and that's where I'm torn on this film, and I am torn on it. We'll go into our overall opinions in a minute, but what I've said with like Man of Steel in the past and Batman v Superman, they're very lifeless, fairly boring, dreary movies. So on the one hand, I'm kind of happy that, to me, this one felt like the one that had the most life to it. It felt like it had the most energy to it. But then on the flip side, I mean, you can go more in depth into it in a minute because you were the one who told me about it initially and you sent me the report. The original version of this film is the one I wish I could have seen and wish is the one that was out there or at least made available. There is a lot of material that are in all the trailers that aren't in the movie. A lot of lines, key lines from characters. A lot of scenes that are alluded to, even some stuff from the Empire magazine that came out with all the information about it. It kind of set it up to be a movie that ultimately I don't think it was. And that, for me, is the biggest heartbreak of this film, really. If I'm going to go into overall opinions now, I don't even say I'd enjoy it, but I thought it was okay. I think it's a very, very watchable movie. I think there are some good moments in it, and there is some good material there. However, you can see where the studio's just gone into this, just picked it to pieces, changed the tone, tried to manipulate the tone, because it isn't a completely changed tone. You can see the original tone that was there. And it's just that studio manipulation again. And that, I think, was one of the reasons why they chose to do it, was because of the backlash that they got from Batman v Superman. A lot of people, a lot of critics were criticizing it for its overly dark, somber tone. And I'm actually, apart from like the character of Superman and things like that, I don't think the tone was necessarily the problem. It was just the filmmaking and the story and the script and everything that sort of went into it. You can have a dark movie, you can have dark elements as long as there's some kind of narrative flow to it. So I think what DC have done when they've jumped on the bandwagon and said, right, we've got to have like all these jokes in it now, and you see it with the latest Justice League trailer, again, loads more jokes in it. It seems like they're just throwing jokes in to justify it. And that wasn't the problem to me. This film could have been a really disturbing, dark, morally ambiguous film. From like the characters of like Amanda Waller and then the Suicide Squad as well, but ultimately it's kind of just a forgettable action romp that's on for like 2 hours, and that's it, when it could have been so much more. And it's the potential it had. It's kind of how I feel a bit with Man of Steel when I saw the original trailers for that, and then ultimately what I saw in the final movie. It's that potential that the film had, and it failed to meet it, and that's kind of what really annoys me about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go into my thoughts. I was looking forward, obviously, I was looking forward to it when I like David Ayer. And then when I saw it at the cinema, I watched it with someone that doesn't watch DC or Marvel, which is interesting, obviously, because it's kind of different opinions in the build-up. And it's got its moments, don't get me wrong. I laughed a few times. Some of the action's really good. But then it's so disjointed. And you're right with the studio interference, because 1 minute I'm going to go to characters for like 10 seconds. It's Jai Courtney is clearly the comedy relief of the original script, and yet I liked him in this, but I feel like he chucks loads of one-liners on the other characters when it's so obviously that Jai Courtney's meant to be there for the comedy, not them. Just little things like that. Some of it felt disjointed, and I really want to say I like it because I do like bits of it, but there's just so much that I was just quite bored.
The pacing was kind of all over the place for this one.
It's hard because I don't like bashing films because you're right, it's perfectly watchable. I think the average person, but I don't know. I think I was angry more because I'd read about the production problems before I saw the actual film.
Do you want to talk about those a bit? Because you were the one that sort of like put me on the article that came out.
So I read an article on BatmanNews.com, which I've used for years for like news stuff. It's such a good site, and basically they've got a list, I think from Variety or whoever the original source was, all the set problems, and basically the way it stems out. I mean, it's important to look at these before you go into the film, I think, because after the first trailer come out, DC were basically shocked at how received it was. By the first trailer, I mean the one with the Queen music. And then after Batman v Superman come out, they were suddenly terrified because Batman v Superman didn't make as much money as they wanted them to make. So they then didn't sack Ayer, but they basically said to him, you go edit your cut of the film. We've hired this company who were responsible for editing the trailer, which is a ridiculous decision to do because trailer companies don't edit films, they edit trailers. They then says, but we're hiring these guys who are going to also make a cut of the film, and we're going to use theirs. So David A is obviously in the background doing his cut, they're doing theirs. They obviously went with the other one. Whether we don't know how much they collaborated, I don't think they did a lot. I think Ayer probably knew they were going to change a lot of it. They added in all the reshoots for the comedy stuff, which we knew about before, which are blatantly obvious in the film. And there's sort of these minor things where they're changing bits here and there. Then you've got Jared Leto coming out now saying most of his scenes were cut. He's really angry about it. I can understand why, because half of the marketing is about him being mental on the set and stuff like that. And he's in it for, say, 15, 20 minutes max.
If that.
Yeah, and it just seemed that Warner Bros., they don't know what they're doing. Now they've got Jeff Johns, which is going to change a lot of it. Is it too late? I don't know. Because had he been there a year ago, this would be very different. But some of it's just typical greed that they wanted to change the release date, but they'd already made merchandise deals and sponsorship deals with Samsung. So, I mean, this was announced in October 2014 and was released now. So normally you get 2.5 years, but with this you got just under 2 years, which is for a blockbuster, that is not a lot of time at all. Especially if the reshoots were in April, the films come out in July. Which look at Rogue One, its reshoots have been in July, it comes out in December, that's 5 months, this was 2.5. So there's a lot of issues. So I can't for the critics. I mean, people get upset with Rotten Tomatoes, that annoys me so much. It's all they do is count scores off other companies that have them together. And if you're going to look at the ones you like, so I read Empire Magazine, I look at Empire's review, I read Den of Geek, I look at Den of Geek's review. I don't care for other YouTube reviews. I don't care for Jeremy Johns or them lot. I don't care for Variety, for Forbes. You look at the reviews you want to look at. You don't have to take everyone's opinion into account. And that's not the way you should go about a film. And that's also not the way you should be retaliating about films as well. Opinions does not give the right at all to act like an absolute moron.
And then this whole thing that's come out about Rotten Tomatoes and just... It's absolutely ridiculous, the level some fans will go to just to justify the movie. But going back to like the whole thing with the reshoots and all the editing behind the scenes stuff, it frustrates me when a studio won't just let the filmmaker make the movie he wants to make. Now, in some cases, yes, the studio can step in. I like the movie, but I know a lot of people don't. But Tim Burton's Batman Returns, clearly Tim Burton had a lot more freedom with that movie, and that's a case where the studio could have stepped in and maybe controlled him a little bit more, perhaps. But it's like the director's got a vision. Let him make the movie. If the movie's not good, then that's all down to the director, and then you haven't got that studio involvement. The studio, that's again apparent with like Marvel as well, with Age of Ultron, where Joss Whedon said he was pretty much miserable every time, like with his making the movie, because he didn't get to make the movie he ultimately wanted to make because there were so many studio notes, and you've got to have this in, you've got to link to this character. And then other ones as well, like recently we had Fantastic Four or Fant Four Stick or whatever you want to call it, and don't get me wrong, Suicide Squad's nowhere near as bad or as like shoddily put together as that movie. That was absolute train wreck of like reshoots and just lack of vision. This is nowhere near that bad, but you can definitely see the two sides to it, where there was one serious cut and then the one we ultimately got with this one. And when it rolls out on DVD and Blu-ray, I really hope they do offer two cuts, maybe if David Ayer does a director's cut, but I don't know now. This is like in theatre and this is what people are used to. Sadly, I don't think we'll get that. Maybe we'll get a few scenes thrown into it, but it'll still be that more comedic tone, you know what I mean? So we'll get more into the film now, but I thought we needed to sort of like give the backstory, because I mean, I didn't know about it. You told me about it literally just before I went to see the film. So as always, our reviews spoiler free at the beginning, then we'll let you know when we're going into spoilers. I think the crux of the whole review will be in spoilers, to be honest, but we're going to do our best to sort of gloss over it and give our initial impressions. So the plot for this one, according to IMDb, a secret government agency recruits a group of imprisoned supervillains to execute dangerous Black Ops missions in exchange for clemency, which inevitably leads to chaos. It's a simple premise, and I've seen a lot of people criticizing the plot, saying it's overly simple. It's just kind of this squad sent in to deal with this thing that happens. But I've seen a lot of movies with a very simple plot, and it's ultimately the characters that will carry the film and the relationship with them and how they're portrayed on screen. And if we go to characters, for example, now, there is a lot of good stuff in there, and there is a lot of good moments, and there were moments where I was watching it and I just started laughing. I was like, this is like directly off the page. This is what I want to see from a superhero DC thing. And then there were other times where it got really bogged down and it slowed down. That's what I mean. Like the pacing was all over the place. So if we touch on characters, I think we should. Will Smith's really the focus, but I want to go with Margot Robbie first, because it's the first time we've ever seen Harley Quinn on the big screen. And when she was cast, Margot Robbie, I mean, I'd seen Wolf of Wall Street at this point. I think that's the only movie I've seen her in. I know you saw, because she'd worked with Will Smith before, didn't she? In Focus, was it?
Yeah.
Which wasn't meant to be a good movie, I don't think. But Margot Robbie, I think she's a fantastic actress. And when she was cast, I was like, yeah, I can absolutely see that. You know, she'll look like the character. I know she can do the kind of accent and she'll have the mannerisms. And I thought she was brilliant in the film. She was a little bit inconsistent. Sometimes she did get a little bit great and a little bit annoying. But to me, that's what the character of Harley Quinn is. She is that ditzy sort of blonde bimbo character. I didn't really like her characterization in this, because they did make a very sort of sexual, like hypersexualized, borderline slutty, that kind of thing, which is a trait of the character in the New 52 comics with Harley. It's not the origin of the character. It's not the persona of the character I like. I very much like her when she was introduced originally in the Batman animated series. That's sort of like my favorite take on Harley. But I know like Tate's left us some notes, hasn't he, of what he thought of the film. Did he give any comment on Margot Robbie at all?
I'm going to save Tate's for the end.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough.
Quite a bit to say about that. So I'm just going to read this whole thing. But do you want me to go on mine?
Yeah, go on yours, because he's got some spoilers in his, hasn't he? So yeah, save it till the end.
I really didn't care. Harley Quinn, I think, is one of the most overrated characters in comics. I like it when it's I like her in the Arkham games. I haven't seen enough of the animated series to have a fair opinion of her. But like Margot Robbie's the right casting, and obviously she's in the New 52 Suicide Squad anyway. It makes sense. And then I felt it wasn't a bad performance. Don't get me wrong, but I think because I don't care for the character, that kind of rubbed off screen. But
yeah,
I think it's quite hard because a lot of her sort of dialogue doesn't work in a film like it does on an animated TV series, the same with the comics.
Especially with the tone, the darker tone that DC can't go for.
I mean, there's these great moments when she's in the car with the Joker, with the Batman clip. That was a great scene. But then there's the sort of ones when she's at the nightclub where she's like over-slutified. And some of it just didn't feel right. Like there's an interesting dynamic that she wants a normal life with the Joker, but they've edited so much of that into it. You're like, oh, okay. I wouldn't say it's a bad performance, it's just one I didn't care for. Certainly, to me, not the most memorable one out of this film. She had her moments, but it was just, I don't like the character, so there's no point for me. But yeah, she's not a standout woman as well.
And if we're going back to what you just said about sort of like her origin, and we're not going to go into spoilers or anything like that at this stage, but yeah, absolutely right. And you can see those cuts in the film, and I bet the material they cut out was some really, really great character stuff. I bet it was more disturbing stuff, absolutely, but that's what her backstory is. Her relationship with the Joker is one of, I think, the most fascinating things in the entire Batman sort of comic history. It is an abusive relationship. It's a physical and mentally abusive relationship, and I think they've just cut all that interesting material out there. You get like bits of it, you get hints of it, but nothing. You sent me a link to all the deleted scenes from the film, and I don't know if all of them were confirmed or if some were speculated, but there was a lot there that developed their relationship a lot more. In terms of the film, it's really kind of portrayed as a lovey-dovey relationship all the way through, with not much grit to it, not much darkness, not much disturbing qualities to it. And that's a shame to me. One of the things I really wanted to see in this movie, there's a great clip from Batman the Animated Series where it's Harley Quinn when she was a doctor at Arkham, and she goes to a therapy session with the Joker, and it's him slowly sort of like breaking her down and turning her more to his line of thinking. And that's the moment I wanted to see. And there was that great picture that was released in Empire, which kind of looked like the interrogation scene from The Dark Knight. It was Harley Quinzel and the Joker at a table, and he was like in a straitjacket or something. And I couldn't wait to see that scene in the film. And it's been cut down so much. I think you barely get like 10 seconds of it, maybe, if that, and then it quickly cuts to something else. And it's that stuff, that's the kind of stuff that annoys me in the film, because I know there was good stuff there, and I loved Margot Robbie as the character. Because we're sort of on the topic of Joker now, do you want to go into what we thought of Jared Leto's Joker?
Yeah, I mean, when that first picture came out, I was like, Christ almighty.
I think that was you, me, and the rest of the world thought that at the time.
Yeah, here we go. Pimp Jacket, Purple Lamborghini, which is now a song that I'm addicted to, which I really hate, but I love. It's hard to judge because you don't see enough of them.
Yeah.
I like not the dynamic between him and Harley, but I like the fact that for once we've obviously seen the relationship side of the Joker, without going into spoilers too much, but he's so clearly cut out of it. I struggle to make an opinion on it, because he's got these moments where it's terrifying, and then you've got these moments where it's just a bit like, oh, okay. But then again, like, for example, the trailer scene when you've got Joker and the machine gun people, there's like, when they're raiding stuff, that's great, that's what the Joker would be like. But then you've got some really like over-the-top things that don't work. Still not behind the tattoos. They should have at least explained them, which they didn't. But he jumped into a pit of acid, his tattoos don't come off, that's not real life. That would happen.
Yeah. It's comic book
real life, but
just
if Ben Affleck wants a way to get rid of it for his film, then just stick him in a acid tub, have him come off. I want to see more of him, because I think it's unfair. There's potential there. I think that's the nicest way of saying it. There is potential, but you can't judge a Joker until he's been on screen with Batman.
Yeah,
absolutely. For like 4 seconds.
Yeah, and that's kind of, well, from the scenes we get, I did go on record at the time and said this is the worst Joker we've ever had on the big screen, and I kind of stand by that. I really didn't like his delivery. You could definitely see he was trying to channel some Ledger in there in terms of his voice and of his mannerisms. But is probably the most off-the-wall Joker we've ever had. But it was just some lines in the script, and I was like, that's not something the Joker would say. I do like the angle they've gone with this one, though. They've kind of gone back more to the Jack Nicholson style, where they've made him more of a gangster, like a pimp, like a crime lord. And I like that he's respected by other criminals and things like that. He's like the crown prince of crime. I like that stuff. But it was just some lines and the way he delivered things, and you're absolutely right. And you just look at the trailers and then you ultimately see what's left in the movie, and there are so many scenes and lines and classic Joker bits that don't make it into the final cut of the film. And whether they're going to save that for like a Joker edition later down the line, I don't know. But because Warner Brothers is always doing that. They did it with The Hobbit. They did it with Batman v Superman. So it really wouldn't surprise me if they do something like that for this movie. The tattoos didn't entirely bother me. I still hate the damaged one on his forehead.
Yeah, but they're not bothering. It's just, it doesn't, there's no need for it.
It's like they've done it just to be completely different. Just
yeah,
to,
like, some of his costume choices I like. You can just have him in the costumes. You don't need the tattoos.
Yeah.
Or change. I can get around some of the costumes, but the tattoos, they didn't add anything.
The one I hated the most was the tattoo of the grin on his hand that he kept like putting up like that. I'm like, don't do that. You don't need that. Just give him the big grinning smile. That's who the Joker is. It seems to me like a lot of the thought process that went into it was everyone still loves Ledger Joker. A lot of people put him as their favorite Joker. Jack Nicholson's always mine, but that's just because of nostalgia for the Tim Burton one that I grew up with. But I can absolutely see why people still regard Ledger as the best. And it's not, well, I say it's not all been that many years ago, but it's coming up to 8 years now, which is just mind-blowing. I can't believe it's been that long since Dark Knight came out. But he has stood the test of time as the Joker, and that's what everyone remembers. And it seems to me like they just went, let's go as completely different as we can to try and distance it. And it's like they forgot a lot of the key qualities to the character. I liked some of his exchanges with Margot Robbie. I wanted to see more of that. But you're right, you can't judge him until you've seen him on screen toe-to-toe with Batman. And I do want to see that. I still do want to see that. I'm not going to go into specifics just yet, but the stuff with Batman in it, you see that in the trailer. I thought Ben Affleck was fantastic again. This is probably one of the best Batman we've ever seen on screen. He wasn't killing anyone in this film, which is a positive. All the Batman scenes, I was like, I want to see a solo Batman movie right now with Ben Affleck, with Harley Quinn or the Joker, whoever, because I really want to see how Affleck and Leto work off each other. So that's really all I can say, really. He's not in the film all that much, and so I can't really judge him just based on the scenes I've seen with him, the small little bit we get. I didn't really like his delivery, but I want to see more of it. We should probably talk Will Smith as well, because he was kind of the poster child of this movie. He plays the character of Deadshot, and I say plays the character of Deadshot because ultimately it's Will Smith playing Will Smith.
Yeah, I mean, I liked him in it.
Yeah, he's charismatic as hell. He's a really charismatic actor, Will Smith.
This felt like Will Smith's best film since Pursuit of Happiness, which I can't really compare this anyway, because one's a great drama and the other's a DC film. But I thought he was great as the action stuff, and he worked in it. It didn't feel like Deadshot. It felt too much like Will Smith. I guess that's the star power to it. Whereas like Margot Robbie did feel like
she became a character.
Yeah, Jared Leto, although he's not in it, you see the characters. Whereas Will Smith, I think, was the only one in the film where you saw the actor, not the character. Whether or not that's him being Will Smith or wherever it not, it's because it's him being him. I liked him in it though. I did like the subplot. It's not. Is it spoiler if we go into a subplot with his daughter? What should I say?
You kind of see it in the trailer. That's just who the character is. So I don't think so.
I like the angle they're working with his daughter. I like the angle that they didn't make his 18-year-old son called Jaden. He was one of the more interesting ones, and as the leader, he worked. Well, I say leader. Rick Flag's meant to be the leader, but Will Smith was.
And you can tell
I don't really have anything bad to say about him, because when they're introducing him as the assassin, he's quite cool. He's charismatic. You see him be good as Deadshot. And then it's just, although it's Will Smith, it works. There's nothing bad about him in it. There's nothing like mesmerizing about it, in a nice way. Yeah,
I know you mentioned like Jeremy Jahns at the start and how you're not a fan, but I did watch his spoiler review, and he said that he didn't feel there was a character of Deadshot there because you just see Will Smith out of the mask so often.
Yeah.
You would like to have seen him in the mask before, but obviously this is Will Smith. He's revered for being a little bit of a prima donna on set sometimes, so I'm sure that was like in his contract that he wanted FaceTime. He didn't want to be in the mask all the time. I don't know. The mask looked cool as well when he was like fully decked out in it with the eye patch and the mask. It looked so cool. And as I say, Will Smith wasn't bad in it. There was a couple of line deliveries. I blame that on the script where there's like a one-liner which may have been a reshoot, and there was just kind of dead air after it. But I thought that he played it well. But that's ultimately his playing himself. It's not much of a stretch. But when you compare it to some of his previous roles that he's done, like After Earth, for example, it's kind of a return to form for the charismatic Will Smith, which is nice to see. And then we'll sort of, because there's so many characters in this, we'll try and get through them as quick as we can because we've got to talk about other things in the film. The character of Amanda Waller, I can't remember.
Viola Davis, I think.
Viola Davis, that's it. I thought she was fantastic. I thought she was one of the best things in the movie.
I was going to say she's the best character in the film by a mile off. She's chilling. She's someone you don't want to mess with. She talks about leverage, and you feel intimidated every time she comes on the screen, and that's her character's role. And I thought she was great in it, and I want to see a lot more from the DC universe. She's not in it for too long because, again, she's a supporting character. She's not part of the Suicide Squad. She's the overseer.
She's very much a behind-the-scenes kind of character. She always has been.
You can always see her lurking in the shadows. And I mean, spoiler for Arrow, they killed off the Amanda Waller in the Arrow TV series because obviously they were having it in the DC films. They did the same with Deadshot in the TV show actually as well. But that Amanda Waller was just a little bit moany, but this one is incredible. I can't talk about the credit scene, but there is more to come from her, and I think everyone in agreement should say she's the best thing about it, and she's a savage. Suicide Squad's her baby, but she's essentially kind of it as well. It epitomizes her as a person.
And that's where I say, like, I can't hate this film wholeheartedly because it did do some things great, and that's, Viola Davis was an example of that. Other characters as well, El Diablo. I thought his character was pretty interesting, in all honesty. Like, they go into his backstory a bit. That was a character I knew nothing about. He wasn't fantastic, but he at least had some kind of humanity to him, I would say, probably more than anyone else out of the group.
Yeah, he was one of my favourite ones, actually, because he was the underdog. You thought, in a nice way, him, Captain Boomerang, Killer Croc, the guy that I don't know his name, the guy that just flies everywhere for like 3 seconds. You thought they're minor characters that would die straight away. Yeah. Whereas he wasn't. It's not spoilers that he's in the game, but he's an important character.
Yeah, absolutely.
A very good backstory.
You kind of follow his journey. He's the character that doesn't want to use his powers. He wants to be a good guy. And, with Amanda Waller, they keep pushing him to use his powers. And it's sort of like him coming to terms with that and using it for some kind of good. Other characters, first big screen appearance of Killer Croc. Visually, I thought he looked great. The makeup effects, I'm sure it was like digitally manipulated as well in some respects. Looked great. However, I thought his characterization was absolutely fucking dreadful. And I think a lot of that, you can clearly tell they went in with one-liners, really didn't match the character. And again, some backstory stuff with Killer Croc. He's a very tragic character in the comic books. Waylon Jones, he's got this skin condition that makes his skin the texture of a crocodile. I know it's completely dumb, but it's comic book. You just have to go with it. And then there are some adaptations where they make him like a proper, like 12-foot tall crocodile man. They very much went with the sort of skin thing in this one. But his character was just terrible, and some of the lines were just cringeworthy, and it just didn't fit the character at all. And the actor's great. I can never pronounce his name. Adam Wally. Mr. Echo from Lost. Yeah. I thought he was good casting. I thought he was great casting for it. I just didn't like how they handled his character in it.
Yeah, I mean, I've read that of these deleted scenes and stuff, apparently they cut a lot from Killer Croc. I mean, the one scene I remember reading about a year ago was that he throws up, because he's a cannibal, he throws up on a helicopter and then starts eating his own sick. Apparently it's like vile, and that's missing from the cut. I don't think there's enough of him. Like, I read he makes a comment like, "Oh yeah, I'm beautiful," but apparently that's really connected to his backstory. Yeah, it comes across as an unfunny one-liner. And he doesn't really have a lot to do. He's there towards the finale, so he thought he might have some more to do. But it seems that by cutting his backstory, it doesn't mean anything when his time comes for him to be involved with the squad. He just felt disposable and unneeded, but clearly there was stuff there for him.
I just kind of wish they'd have made him like the silent badass monster in the background almost.
Yeah,
like, many lines.
I mean, my favourite Killer Croc. I mean, there's not been many of them, but I've always loved the Arkham ones. And
Yeah.
that's a bit OP to put in a film, and probably very expensive budget wise. But it was just cool to actually see that character go on screen, even if it wasn't the best. It was just nice to see it.
And we've got two other characters to talk about. Really, we'll go through it really, really quickly because I know you've got to take off in less than an hour. Captain Boomerang. I have never been a fan of Jai Courtney, but my God, he was fantastic in this film. Completely embodied the character. It looked like he was having a lot of fun with it. Again, another character I wanted to see more of. We really don't get a lot of him. We don't get to see him utilizing his powers all that much. But he was one of the things I was concerned about, in all honesty. When I heard he was cast and I saw him in the trailers, I thought, you know, I'm not sure I'm going to buy it. I'm still fresh off of Terminator Genesis with him as Kyle Reese. But I thought he was great. I thought, in all honesty, he was probably one of the standout things in the film. And again, another character I want to see more stuff from.
I called him the wooden plank, didn't I, for a good year?
Yeah, you did.
And he is probably more charismatic than Will Smith in this film.
Yeah, and I wondered, you know, when Tom Hardy was originally going to be cast in this film and then he dropped
out. Tom Hardy was Rick Flag.
Oh, was he Rick Flag? Oh, okay.
When we get to that, it'll make more sense. But basically, I liked him. I loved him in it. Give me 1 second because there's a lawnmower.
Okay, no worries. But no, when I was looking at his character, he even looked a bit like Tom Hardy when he did like the crazy eyes and
that trench coat. I wanted more of him. I mean, he's in it the right amount of time, and he's genuinely really funny. And Jai Courtney's got his normal Australian voice, which probably helps him actually. But I want to see more of him because he was great in it, and I felt so bad for slagging him off for a year when clearly he got a role that now suits him.
He's found his niche now. He needs to just stick to this character. He needs to kind of do like the Ryan Reynolds thing and just stick with Deadshot for a while.
Captain Boomerang, bring him in the Flash film, stuff like that. It was interesting because he's one of them where he was the comic relief, and he was clearly the comic relief of the original cut. Obviously, they would have all had one-liners here and there, but he seemed like the funny one, and there's always one. And yet it's suddenly everyone trying to be funny, so it didn't all work. But I'd like to see a bit more of him. He was one of the standouts for me.
I mean, I love the bit in the trailer, and I got a laugh in the film as well, where they all get together for the first time. And it's like a mail bag, and he like unzips himself out the bag. The first thing he does, he just decks the person. So much personality to that character, and that's what I mean. I can't hate this film when you compare it to like Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. This is still inconsistent, and the tone is all over the place. But there are moments where you do get character, you do get personality, even from something so small as someone punching someone in the face. It's all there for the character. There are other characters as well, like Tana, but she doesn't really get all that much to do. But I think the one character we should talk about before moving on to like the tone and the soundtrack.
Rick Flag as well.
Rick Flag, I didn't really care for him in the movie. Wasn't very charismatic.
Tom Hardy was cast as Rick Flag, and watching that film, he's very important, I think, in it.
Oh yeah, he is.
I haven't seen enough of Joel Kinnaman to slag him off, but his sort of Texas accent, it didn't really work because he is very important. It just made me think, I wonder how much better he could have been if Tom Hardy, because Tom Hardy would have suited the role. Obviously, the original reports were that Tom Hardy dropped out because of Will Smith and Margot Robbie getting all the attention. And really, I'd say Rick Flag's in there with them two. But
he would have got even more attention if Tom Hardy had played him.
Yeah, and there would have been an aura to the character and his history of being like a great soldier. And if you had Tom Hardy, you believe it. But Joel Kinnaman felt very two-dimensional, and there's a lot. He's meant to be in it for quite a decent amount. That's all I can say on him.
I haven't really got much to say about his character, to be honest. I find him a bit forgettable. We should talk about Enchantress as well, Cara Delevingne. I've never seen her acting before. I think she's mostly a model, isn't she? But,
see it again.
I thought she was all right. I honestly thought she was all right in this film. Again, I can't go like massively in depth with the character and everything, but I thought the look of the character was great. There's a lot of sympathy to a character throughout. She's kind of like the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of character. And it was in the trailer, but that transformation scene at the start was fantastic because she goes through like a lot of appearances in the film, where it's the one where she kind of looks like Tia Dalma crossed with a zombie. And it's like she puts her hand on the table and like the spirit kind of grabs her hand and turns over and transforms. That was some really, really creative stuff. And I thought the look of the character was great throughout. I thought she played it very well for the material she was given. Again, I don't know if there was more character there initially with her, but I think they pretty much ran the gamut with her character as much as they can with like her stake in it and sort of like her personality to it.
Yeah, a lot of random dancing as well. I'm going to save her for the spoilers.
Yeah.
But I'd say that's it for the characters.
That's absolutely it for the characters. I know we've lingered on that for quite a while, but it is a big cast. So we've talked about it a little bit throughout, but we should talk like the tone and the direction. We said earlier that this is David Ayer's first big CGI-filled superhero kind of movie. Like, he's never made a film like this before. And there are moments of this film where it is very much that ground level, just with the characters in a very claustrophobic space. There were parts of this movie that reminded me of the John Carpenter film Escape from New York with Kurt Russell as Snake Plissken. It's very sort of like rubble, grim, dirty, street level warfare kind of stuff. And with Sabotage as well, like that was a team movie with people with questionable moral standpoints and things like that. So you can kind of see the two going on there. In terms of like the action, though, a lot of it was filmed really, really close up. It was very dark throughout. I can't even imagine seeing this film in 3D. I really, really can't. I was struggling to see a lot of the stuff that was 2D. Then I've seen people comparing the ending of this film to Phantom Stick, and
no, very different.
Yeah, I do think that the third act of this film was fairly rushed, and it did feel a bit of a mess, but nowhere near to that extent. I thought it still served the movie. It was just, I wish, because like at the start of the film, like the Batman stuff, the action's filmed very well. The camera pulls back, you can see everything that's going on. But like all the big fight scenes and all the enemies in it are kind of like, you know, all look the same, faceless sort of drones they have to work themselves through. It was just sort of like, it wasn't really shaky cam. It was just filmed really close up and too dark for me to actually see what was going on and which character was fighting who, etc. But in terms of the direction, again, I want to see his cut of the movie, and I don't know if I will or not.
Yeah, I mean, I like David Ayer. I love Fury so much. And when they announced him, like you said, it was Sabotage in team films. He's nail on the head. He's perfect casting. He suits DC as well. That was the best thing about it. His casting, his choices, and it was all going so well, that first trailer. And then I just feel like, because he hasn't done a big blockbuster, to me that makes him feel like an easier target than for Warner Bros. To kind of slap around the wrist, stuff like that. And you've seen him do it to loads of people before. Zack Snyder, he's got some levity with them, but they had him done. Nolan, they tried to slap Nolan around and he was having none of it. Tim Burton, I suppose because he was new to it, he beat them, although they ultimately did get rid of him. I suppose at the end of the day, Warner Bros., the downfalls of their Superman films and their Batman films from the 90s and 70s. And I want this DC universe to be well, but them interfering is costing them a lot. And I'm not talking money or critics. I'm talking potential for decent films. And also, how can you attract filmmakers to make films for you if you're showing them in a corner? Because you're going to lose the talented ones. You're only going to get the yes people. He's a talented one that's probably going to never really work for them again. Say it's his film, but it's clearly not. And you saw so much David Ayer stuff, and then it was just plastered over with some gimmicky things. So it's a shame, it's hard, but the tone, it's 1 minute it's you know, the whole happy blazing, and then the next it's dark, deep, and the dark stuff's great. It suits this, but the light-hearted comedy doesn't. And I know soundtrack's up next, but the soundtrack epitomizes the Warner Bros. Sort of bashing over their heads.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the soundtrack now. Never have I been in a movie where I've seen that level of manipulation in a film. And I went to see it with my mate, and he said it the best. He says that using a soundtrack or using a song is the cheapest and easiest way to change the tone of your movie. And it absolutely is. The first part of this film, for like the first half hour, it felt like I was watching a music video. It was just constant. The soundtrack never let up. Like, you can introduce it with a song, that's fair enough, but it was just new song, new song, new song. And I know they said that they wanted to kind of go with the effect of all the different songs they were using to try and give each of the characters their own unique theme or sort of like song that tied to their character. And that's fine, but you can tell that soundtrack, maybe they would have had some songs in the original cut of the film, but you can tell they would have had nowhere near that amount of songs in it. The soundtrack was absolutely unreal to this film, and they're good songs, don't get me wrong. Like, it's not bad music in the film, and it kind of works with the scenes, but it works with this new tone, and it's absolutely that. You can tell they were going for that Guardians of the Galaxy feel to it. You sort of ragtag team of villains in this one, or characters, quirky characters. But in Guardians of the Galaxy, it made sense that music was playing because they were songs off the cassette tape that his mum gave him on a deathbed. And he was from the 80s, and that was his cassette tape anyway, so that made sense to play that, and it added to the feel of the film. It just seemed like a cheap copycat gimmick, and that's kind of what DC are doing at the minute. I know DC fanboys are probably just going to blow up the comment box right now. I don't care. They are copycatting off Marvel. They absolutely are. The initial concept of bringing all these characters back and creating a cinematic universe was in retaliation to what Marvel have been doing. And just make your own movie, make your own identity with it. And it just seems like everything they do is in retaliation, and they're ultimately shooting themselves in the foot. And I know this is a very long-winded comment on just the soundtrack section, but that's how I feel. Like, that manipulation. And when you told me about the whole thing with the editing before, you look at the Bohemian Rhapsody trailer and the Ballroom Blitz trailer, and you're like, this is exactly that. Like, that music would work great in a trailer, fair enough, but they just bombard this whole fucking movie with music. When it kind of let up a little bit in the middle, and it was just being its own movie, that's when I kind of got into the film a little bit more. But it was just that manipulation. You could absolutely see Warner Brothers' fingerprints all over the cut of this movie.
Music-wise as well, DC, I mean, Zimmer's done a lot of it. I love Hans Zimmer. DC have the strongest soundtracks, and by soundtracks, I mean they have themes.
Yeah.
There's a Wonder Woman theme, there's a Superman theme, there's a Batman theme. They've done it very well, I think. Nolan's films, they've always been strong with the soundtracks. Marvel's always been poor until Guardians, where obviously it's not an original soundtrack, it's tunes. This is exactly what they did, and they didn't do any favors for them. Okay, it's harder to do a theme for a squad, but DC's strongest point has always been their soundtracks, and this is just Harley
there was
Quinn,
no Joker theme.
Without Me and Bohemian Rhapsody on at the end for 10 seconds. They even used a song from the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer.
Yes. Yeah.
And I love soundtracks, but it didn't suit it. It suits. I don't like talking about Marvel and Guardians and stuff, but you're right. You nailed on. The soundtracks are important to the film because of obviously the mom connection in Guardians. Whereas there's no relevance to any music at all. And
even like we talk about like continuation of soundtracks, and I thought Batman v Superman did that fantastically. It carried on the themes for the most part. It didn't use like the big I think it's like, what are you going to do when you're not saving the world? It didn't use that theme in Batman v Superman, unfortunately, but it had that piano piece, which is the really nice piano piece behind Superman. But there's no continuation with the Batman theme in this one, and I'm not going to go into the scenes.
He's not in it enough, so
no, but like,
20 seconds.
Yeah, there's a part where he like swoops into an alleyway, and I was like, please play the Junkie XL Batman theme right now, or just like a little snippet of it, like an undercurrent, and it doesn't. And you're right, there's no new Joker theme. I couldn't sing you back like any song from this at all, and I could with Batman v Superman.
You could even do the Lex Luthor theme.
Yes, the piano where he's just wailing on the lower keys of the piano. The Wonder Woman theme, everyone loves that theme that I've seen, and that played, recurring throughout that movie. And it is a shame, and this is what I mean. Like, if they brought out that original cut version, I wonder what the music would have sounded like to that. Would there have been more of it? Would they have dialed back on all these songs? I think they would have. It's just a shame. Again, it's that missed opportunity. So I know we've still got to talk about spoilers, and you've got to go very soon. So really, really quickly, positives and negatives, and then we'll move into the spoiler section.
For every 10 minutes of stuff you enjoy, you're going to get 15 where it's like, for fuck's sake.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really go into specifics. I don't really want to. But that's you have to watch the film because it's so polarizing, more polarizing than Batman v Superman.
So would you still recommend people see the film?
I think you have to form an opinion on it. Because a casual, my friend didn't like it. He's not into Marvel DC. He didn't like it, but then there's a lot of people that have liked it that aren't into them. So it's certainly appealing, and marketing's done their job. I just think it's a film to see. Would I recommend this over another David Ayer film? No, I'd tell you to watch Fury still. But just give it a go and see what you think, because you might enjoy it, you might not.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's the best way of putting it, to be fair.
For me, positives, there is some good character moments in there. There are moments that did remind me of the animated series or some moments from the comic books, especially with Harley Quinn and the Joker. The Batman stuff is phenomenal, and it's only a little bit. It's like 5 minutes, if that, but it's just whetted my appetite to see the Ben Affleck solo movie. I really, really can't wait for that. This is the Batman I wanted to see. I want to see more of. Negatives, it's the inconsistent tone, it's the manipulation of the studio, which really got in the way of the enjoyment of this movie for me. And just the pacing as well. Like, you'll get these big action scenes in it, and then you'll go through like a massive lull where jokes are trying to be made and they're not funny and nothing much is happening. It's a very simple plot, and I think that there are a lot of times where it feels like really dragged out. Could have been tightened up a little bit. I'm interested to see if they bring out an ultimate cut or an extended cut or a Joker cut or whatever they're going to do with this movie, because I do think there's a lot of material in there that I want to see that did get cut out, which I think would have improved the movie. But I would still recommend people seeing this movie. I don't hate this movie anywhere near as much as I do with Man of Steel or Batman v Superman, but I do think that I'll need to see this film a couple more times to form my opinion on it wholeheartedly and see how I'd rank all three of them so far. It was kind of just nice to see a DC property with a bit more character, a bit more life into it, and I do think that the direction of this film was a lot better than Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. I think that Ayer is a much better director than Zack Snyder. Maybe not so much like the cinematography-wise of it, but there was narrative drive, there was a plot, there was an end goal, and you're with these characters, and there are times where you're kind of with them and want to see them achieve it. So it's a very middle of the road movie for me. A very average score. If I hate numerical ratings, but if I'm going to give it, I'd probably give it like a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, it's fair enough.
Just very middle of the road. But in terms of what's on at the cinema at the minute, it's by far not the worst superhero film I've seen all year so far. So we'll go into what? Sorry.
Better than X-Men.
Better than X-Men.
Better than Deadpool.
Better than no, Deadpool's fantastic, but it's better than Batman v Superman, I would say right now. Still got Doctor Strange, so we'll see how that marries up with it. But we'll go into
spoilers. You can't say you're looking forward to Marvel films.
Oh yeah, we're on DC, aren't we? Yeah, DC fanboys. Hopefully, well, now I've gave a sort of like cautious buy for Batman v Superman Ultimate Cut. Hopefully they'll ease back a bit now, but I mean, I'm not hating against this movie. I just gave it a very average, middle of the road review. That's not. But if you're not giving it like anything like an 8 or a 9 out of 10, then I guess you're doing something wrong. So let's go into spoilers then. So we'll pretty much go through the film really, really quickly, just beginning to end. So the intro to the characters. This is another thing. I mean, the movie is really divisive, and I don't know how I feel about this, because the movie does kind of grind to a fucking halt really quickly. It's Amanda Waller. She's at a dinner. She's kind of like pitching the idea of assembling a task force, and she's listing down all the characters. And we get flashbacks to each one, and then it'll cut back to her in the dinner room and introduce the next character. Cut back to another flashback. I watched a bunch of reviews before seeing this movie, so I was kind of prepared for that. But watching it again, I was like, yeah, this does kind of really slow the pace down. Guardians of the Galaxy got away with it. It was just like, this is Star-Lord. He's arrogant. He's done all these things. Rocket Raccoon, genetically modified rodent, this, and they just list them down, boom, 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 and then you let the film pick, create the characters for you, and you go on the journey with them. But then on the other hand, there are a lot of characters in this movie that audiences aren't aware of. Really obscure comic book ones. I mean, people know Harley Quinn, just general popular culture. She's a really, really popular Batman character. But other ones like El Diablo, Deadshot for the most part, people have never seen these characters on the big screen before. So I think that you do need the flashbacks for them. And I don't know if they waited and sort of like distributed them throughout the rest of the movie, if that would have worked as well. So get them all the way at the start, and then you kind of know who the characters are. So I'm really torn about it. On the one hand, the pacing slows down, but on the other hand, it does introduce all the characters and give you their initial setup.
Yeah, it's a weird one, because it kind of works in the film trailer in a bad way, but there are so many people you have to introduce to this. So I wanted to say I like it, because I kind of did, but then some of it felt a bit too postery. But it is better than an email attachment.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
I don't know how I feel about it because I understand why they did it, and it's such a hard thing to pull off for new characters.
Mm.
Because could you imagine an Avengers film if you had to do that?
Yeah, exactly. It just wouldn't
So
work.
it's just one of them where um, I don't know. It worked. I knew a few of the characters, but I didn't know a few other ones. So I think to a casual fan, I think it's more important to them than us.
I think it would have been even more disjointed, to be honest, if you had have distributed them throughout the film, because there's so many characters you'd have been all over the place. You'd have had to kind of do it like Lost, where a moment happens in the film that has some resonance to the character and then flashback. But by that time, you'll be like halfway into the movie with the characters anyway, that you won't even know their pasts or anything like that. So get it away at the start. It's all done.
Yeah.
Then get into the film. I think it could have been tightened up. I do. I think it could have been re-edited a bit. But it didn't really bother me, and I enjoyed seeing the characters.
I will say I did really enjoy the actual flashbacks. It was more just the on-screen text didn't really do anything of the poster. But in terms of the flashbacks, Batman was great.
Oh my god, Batman was so fucking good in this movie.
He's in it for literally a minute and a half tops.
And it was the best minute and a half of the entire movie.
And they've already shortened his sequence in the car, which I want to see more of.
Yeah.
I think it's great, and it's nice to see him luring about in the DC universe.
This was Batman being Batman. We'd seen a bit of that in Batman v Superman in the warehouse scene, although Batman did kill quite a lot of people in that scene, which I'm very much against. He doesn't kill anyone in this movie. This is Batman doing exactly what he does best. He's rounding up crime on the streets. And I did kind of get Batman nerd chills where Deadshot's in the alleyway with his daughter, and then you just see him swoop down from the sky and land right there, and it's Affleck in the Batman costume, completely looks the part. He is that character. And this is what I mean. It just makes me want to see more of the future properties. And I guess that's a good thing, right? I mean, if this film is like setting up things where we're saying stuff like, we want to see more of the Joker, we want to see more of Batman, that's a good thing. But when I'm so used to seeing just solo Batman movies in the past, I kind of just think like, forget all this Justice League setup shit. Just give me another Batman movie. But you're right, the scenes with him are fantastic. The car chase is great, and I know they cut it down. I want to see more of that. Seeing Batman just eject out of the Batmobile, land on top of a Lamborghini driven by the Joker with Harley Quinn shooting through the roof, saying you're ruining date night, launching into the river, and then Batman diving in to save Harley because she can't swim. That's the Batman I like. That's the Batman I want to see. And that's classic Joker as well, how we just drive it in and then bail out and just forget about Harley. That got one of the biggest laughs for me as well, where she's under the water and she tries to stab him, and Batman just like fucking sucker punches her and knocks her out underwater and then drags her out of the lake. It was all great stuff. It was better than the Flash cameo, which was...
Yeah, the Flash cameo is interesting because it was a great introduction to Captain Boomerang, I thought. Where he just got a little vacuum sucking up diamonds, he kills his mate, and then like Flash appears, and it's a shame it got spoiled because I might have reacted more to it had I not known. Because I know Captain Boomerang's a Flash villain anyway.
Yeah.
But it was it's come out that scene. David A had a version of that scene, I think, without Flash. And then obviously they're now filming Justice League, so they let Zack Snyder take the scene for the reshoot. So that was Zack Snyder's scene.
I think the problem
was Zack Snyder's scene.
Yeah, I did hear that it filmed a scene. I didn't know which one it was, but
that one.
that was it.
But it's nice to see the universe. And
it is. I think the problem I had with it is though it's too early. You haven't established the Flash in the universe yet. I mean, I know we've seen him in the dream sequence, the nightmare sequence, whatever you want to call it, in Batman versus Superman. But even then, that was completely random. Like, actually set up the character first, and then you can have moments like this. It'd be like, it reminded me of the cameo in Thor: The Dark World, where Loki transforms into Captain America. For a second, I don't know if you can remember that scene. It'd be like that if you hadn't have done a Captain America or Avengers movie at that point. You'd be like, why is he there? It was just a bit random, especially if people don't know anything about the Flash character and are just watching these films as they come out. I think that'd be really just kind of confusing. It's only a really, really short scene, though, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it was just cool to see Flash. I mean, obviously, we haven't seen him. I know it from the telly.
In the costume as well.
Had they have gone for the Grant Gustin Flash, the TV Flash, the reaction to that would have been incredible. Unfortunately, DC wanted. Though Jeff Johns does Arrow and Flash, I think he was the producer on them both, who is now the head of DC Films.
Yeah.
Doing that stuff unless they go for the multiverse route. But again, we need more time. We'll see him in Justice League. The costume is okay. But yeah, it was okay. But again, the flashback scenes did the job of introducing the characters, but the best one is the Batman ones, and it made sense for the Flash villain to be caught by Flash and the Batman ones to be caught by Batman. But yeah.
We should talk about the origin of Harley and Joker as well, because that was a big thing. I mentioned earlier that I think a lot got cut, and I still think that the whole scene where he was going to give her like shock therapy, I'm sure you would have seen more of that. That would have been way more graphic. The exchange with him where he's breaking her down in therapy sessions, I'm sure they filmed that as well. So the initial origin of them, he just kind of says like, get me a machine gun, and then it cuts and then he's like shooting up the place. It was all too quick for me. I wanted much more of the Harley character because she is one of my favorite members of the Batman Rogues Gallery. I think her origin story is definitely one of the most fascinating out of all the villains, and her relationship with the Joker. And then you kind of get the other one later in the film with the acid or the chemicals or the bleach, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where they've mashed two origin stories. I don't know a lot about the New 52 comics, but I swear I heard that her origin in that is that she just kind of falls into chemicals and it makes her crazy. Very much like the Jack Nicholson Joker sort of origin, where it's comic book chemicals that have sort of like undefinable powers and just do whatever the writers need them to do. So I kind of like how they mash the two. You have the original one with him making her crazy through therapy, and then you also have the other one with the chemicals. It was kind of framed like an initiation, wasn't it? Like, I don't know if they were going to sort of killing joke origin of the Joker, because I'm guessing it was makeup, although we did see him without his shirt on and he was kind of all bleached. So I was expecting this acid to kind of bleach Harley, but it didn't, because that's not how she is. It's just makeup. So
no, I think she's white still. It's just not very white.
Pale, isn't she? She's not like bleached skin white.
It's kind of vaguely bleached. I'm guessing the Joker likes his bleach baths, which keep him going at night. But it was okay.
And that was a cool bit where he is kind of manipulating her and saying like, oh, would you die for me? Would you live for me? Oh, that's too easy or something. And then, she willingly jumps into acid and chemicals. And then it's that moment where he walks off. He's going to leave her there. But now that attachment's been built, he's like, oh, and he like throws his jacket off to dive in after her. And that's a great shot as well when he picks her up out of the chemicals, and it's like all the colour from her hair's ran. And you got like the green of the chemicals. That's a really brilliantly framed shot, and I loved how that shot looked.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see more of that. I heard that scene was originally a bit longer. Anything with like Joker like emotionally breaking her down, and that's the antithesis of their relationship. And I think that they did touch on it, but I think like when you get later on in the film where when Joker comes to rescue her, and you've got like the rope ladder or whatever it was, like the rope out of the helicopter, and she jumps onto it and she's doing all the acrobatics. That was classic Harley, and I got a laugh out of that. But just how caring he is for her for most of this movie, and he pushes her out of the helicopter to save her. I heard again in the original cut they got into some kind of argument, and he pushed her out because he dislikes her and he wanted to kill her. That's more fascinating to me.
It's more of the Joker and Harley, though, from what you know.
Exactly, and
he's always played her, and he does like her, but he's always played her. Whereas in this, built up as a proper romance. But again, we need to see more, because they've clearly changed so much of his flashbacks. Because there's the bit when he raids the site to get the neck deactivate thing. Apparently, there's an extended sequence which you want to see more of, because that's like a great action scene. Especially seeing all his goons dressed up, especially one as the anime Batman, which looked brilliant.
Yes, yeah, I noticed that too. I remember seeing the first trailer and I wasn't sure if that was Batman or not. I was going to wait till the finished movie, but it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What else can we talk about? We should probably talk about Enchantress, actually, because that's a big thing. More being the main villain.
Let's talk about her brother.
Incubus, which I had to Google afterwards because they don't name him in the movie, to my knowledge.
It was awful. I know they needed it felt. They just have like a faceless army, don't they? It was really generic. It was really obvious it was going to be Enchantress, because I think it was leaked as Enchantress.
Yeah.
What he did well was reveal the fact that she doesn't look like a dirty bath for the whole film. It's only for about 10 minutes.
Mm.
The actress is pointless because they dub her over with a posh British person for no reason at all.
I wondered if they dubbed her or not. Yeah, that was weird. I didn't know if that was her acting or...
It wasn't her, but it just didn't really do anything.
I guess her final costume in the movie does look more like her actual costume in the comic books, like the green robe.
Yeah.
But I loved how they made her look at the start of the movie. She looked like something out of The Ring or, you know, like something out of Left 4 Dead. Yeah, it was weird. But the thing is, if you're going to have the Joker in it, and someone mentioned this to me, that their friend hated the movie and they went on a rant. They said that they had the Joker, they should have either have made him the main villain or made him a cameo, and he was kind of neither. Like, he wasn't even a cameo, he was just kind of there. I'm kind of glad they went with something different to the Joker, but ultimately, with the kind of character that Enchantress and Incubus are, these big, like, fucking demigods
monsters
to destroy the world.
Faceless army. I've never seen that in a I've never seen that in a comic book film before.
Yeah, exactly. It resorts it to a cliched, paint by the numbers, let's create this doomsday machine to wipe out the Earth, with another machine that pulls shit up into the sky. I'm so done with that. That's like in every single superhero film now. I'm so fucking bored of it. And Incubus as well. I thought the effects on Incubus were terrible. It reminded me of like that, was it Gods of Egypt kind of effects? Looked like PS1 cutscene shit. It was so bad. And Enchantress at the end, where she had like the weird CGI body, but they kept her head there. And like her head wasn't moving, but her body was like hula dancing and jiving all over the place. It was bizarre. I don't quite know why they went with that idea. Like, just get Cara Delevingne and keep her voice. Go on, sorry.
Normally, DC's strength is their villains, and they really underutilized it in this one. Yeah. Even Batman with Superman, I know you hate Lex, but in terms of a villain, he's phenomenal. In terms of deeds in a film, not necessarily performance, but yeah, it just lacked it. I know it's about the squad, but it was just the missing component that could have done more to it. But it's a forgettable villain as well. And Enchantress is just kind of boring character, and her story arc with being in a relationship with Rick Flag was as boring. You didn't really care. You knew what was happening. You knew what was going to happen.
It reminded me of Davy Jones vibes as well. How Amanda Waller's got the heart of Enchantress, sort of controlling her.
She was poking it, although in theory that should kill her, not have a hole in her.
Yeah.
In terms of villains, actually, Amanda Waller's a bit of a villain. I mean, she kind of is. Because there's that.
Yeah, I mean, she shoots her own people, doesn't she, in that scene?
Yeah, I've never seen that from her. That was good. That was great, I thought. But also, when everything's saved at the day at the end, it's all this crap like, oh yeah, we're gonna go back to Gotham. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go see my daughter, and then Amanda Waller comes out. Although she's got 8 villains in front of her, she's ready to kill them all, and she wins, and they all end up back in prison. Okay, they've got some leverage on her, but that was great, I thought, because it's the grim reality that okay, they're never going to be free from this. And that I dug the Amanda Waller stuff. It was just the Enchantress and Incubus. That was so...
Enchantress in this movie, I got a lot of Galadriel vibes. Kate Blanchett from The Lord of the Rings. She goes like really demonic and like a drowned queen. Kind of. Got a lot of that from it. I didn't hate the villains, but it was just I knew exactly what kind of villain the film was going to have from the trailers when you see that subway thing and like the looked like the alien symbiote from Spider-Man 3 a little bit. And
you can predict the rest of the film with the villains as well.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Ultimately, it suffers in the third act, and it just becomes like a generic superhero movie. What else can we talk about? We kind of talked about the Will Smith stuff with the daughter. I liked it at the end. I liked the payoff at the end where he gets to visit his daughter. But a lot of people are saying like the flashbacks earlier in the film are very cliched, and I guess they are a bit. I would have liked to have seen more of that, to be honest. A little bit more character here and there. What else can we talk about? We've talked about the ending. Is there anything in the movie you wanted to talk about? It feels like we're missing something a little bit, but
I think we've got most of it.
Slipknot completely wasted.
Yeah, that was hilarious. That's his name. I forgot his name. I knew someone was going to go, but to DC's credit, at least they marketed him for the whole entire thing, so it wasn't completely useless. Although kind of hilarious, where he just flew up the building and just popped halfway through. And it was like Captain Boomerang. He's the one that set him up to leave as well. That was what was funny. And he was there like, oh shit, mate.
I do like that bit in the bar scene as well, where again they cut that scene out where Harley Quinn's asking what they all want to drink. That would have been a nice scene.
Yeah.
Maybe that's going to be an extended cut, but
He just runs
I think
out.
Rick Flag says something about like you're all free to go, and immediately Captain Boomerang just leaves the bar and just fucking walks out. That was amazing because that's so in character with him. Like he just doesn't give a shit the entire way through the movie.
Exactly. I really liked him. I want to see him do that a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. He was really charismatic. He had a lot of character in this one. He was one of the best ones in it, hands down. I'm trying to think of anything else in the movie to talk about. You get that kind of weird dream vision towards the end where the Enchantress is trying to tempt them.
That was more of the... Yeah, it's more of Harley Quinn wants to have a little family with the Joker. Didn't see Jared Leto's normal face.
I thought that scene would have been so much more funny if it was like regular Harley with a regular kid, but it's still the Joker in her vision. I thought that would have been amazing to see, but clearly Leto wanted to just get out of the makeup a little bit in it.
The old Diablo stuff was kind of cool. A tad generic, but at least it kind of, had...
Yeah, and it gives him a lot of stake, with his powers, that he's got a compelling reason why he doesn't want to use it, because ultimately he killed his wife and child, a rage.
Which was great, and he kind of sacrificed himself for the team. And, I didn't think he'd be a key player, but he was. And by giving him a vision at the end, that clearly meant, because only 3 visions were shown, his was one of them, so, that's what I really enjoyed about it. With him, more so than it. But I think most things are covered just by talking about characters, because in terms of spoilers, there's really not a lot, because it's so...
It's a very paint-by-the-numbers film, isn't it? There's not a lot to talk about, exactly. We could talk about some of the scenes that got cut, or the ones, the line that the Joker says, it's probably one of the classic lines from the trailers where he's like, I can't wait to show you my toys. That's not in the film. There's a great Joker picture that you sent me where he's like holding a grenade and his face is all burnt and gnarled up. He looks straight out of a nightmare. That's not in there. And I know one thing I wanted to bring up as well. It's a really, really quick shot, but I thought it was a great Easter egg to throw in. There's a scene. If you go on like Google Images and you type in, with safe search on, Harley and Joker, the classic picture that will come up is usually like a black background.
Oh, and they reenacted it with Harley in the full costume for a second.
In the classic animated series costume. They didn't have to do that. I'm fine with a new costume. I'm used to seeing Harley kind of go through all different costumes with the Arkham games or whatever. But it was great that they throw that in, and I think when they kind of all get like the props to put on and the clothes and stuff when they're getting suited up, she even pulls out the red and black diamond jumpsuit, and then she like throws it aside and puts a new one on. I just thought that was a neat little nod, and again to like the classic imagery that you see of the 2 characters. We'll kind of round out then what we think of the future of DC. We'll talk about the after credit scene and overall opinions again. So. Shall we start with the after credit scene and then sort of go into the future? What did you think to the
credit scene?
Mid credit scene.
I like seeing Bruce Wayne in it. I love Ben Affleck already. It was more just teasing the Justice League, but obviously Wallace says, I get leverage, and then she just drops the bomb that she knows he's Batman. Whether that will come into play in a future Batman film, we don't know. But again, to me, that bigs up her character. And he obviously in his files, he gets Aquaman, he gets Flash. So he now knows their identities and stuff. And I think there was another name. Was it Enchantress in it as well?
Yeah, Enchantress was the first one in the book, which kind of threw me a little bit. I thought, well, she's not part of the Justice League, but maybe they've got a plan for her. Maybe they're going to bring her back in somehow.
Yeah, it was just it's funny because the whole DC don't do post-credit scenes, all that on their high horse stuff, and here they are, one film later with the mid-credit scene. But it suits it. But
it does, yeah. It's kind of a staple of the comic book movies now, isn't it? I know Marvel have been doing it. Well, Marvel didn't start the whole after credit scene thing, but you know what I mean? Like, it does link you into the next film. It's kind of a comeback next time, like a TV show kind of thing. I did say to you, like, it's a bit annoying how everyone seems to know Batman's identity, Bruce Wayne, but then again, it's nice to see Bruce Wayne extending his contact list, and he is going to keep tabs on these villains that he's helped put away. And he's got Amanda Waller as a contact, who again is a morally ambiguous character, so that's cool. Links it into Justice League. He's going to go off and start rounding everyone up. But then again, to me, it kind of does cheapen the ending a little bit of Batman v Superman, where it looks like he arrived at that decision to find everyone because he knew that they had to fight, and he was doing it in respect to Superman. Now it's kind of like, oh, I'm doing it because Amanda Waller is helping me to and wants me to.
Oh no, she's not helping. It's more.
She's just giving him like the.
She's given him the information so that he doesn't basically publicise the fact that she's done this, because they won't associate themselves with it. So he's kind of had a bit of leverage on her, so she's fired back with that "I know who you are" line. I wouldn't say it's more of helping each other. I'd say it's more just, you know, I need these files.
Yeah.
But again, maybe she will come in the next Batman film. It'd be cool if she did.
So, future of DC, really. Again, like I kept saying that this would be the make or break for me. Like, I'd see this movie and then I'd decide whether I'd even... Well, of course, I'd still go and see all the other ones, but whether I'd even care for the rest of the franchise. And unfortunately, it's an average movie, so I don't really fall on either side. So I'm absolutely going to be there for Wonder Woman. I think that trailer looks great. And now that Jeff Johns has kind of joined the team, and I think that'll be the first one that he's got some involvement in, maybe we'll see it start to take shape a bit.
With Jeff Johns, I mean, I'm still buzzing for Justice League and stuff. I don't think we'll see the Jeff Johns effect until Justice League. Well, because Snyder's still doing it, but they've tamed him. So I think the Jeff Johns effect might come in either at Justice League or post Justice League, but I think because Wonder Woman's so different era-wise, I don't think it's going to associate itself with the films. It'll be more of the Captain America type, where actually it's basically Thor in Captain America's body. But I'm interested for that, but they need to nail Justice League or they're going to lose a lot of people. But I think with Jeff Johns, I hope it's not, but it could be too late by the time he's got his input into it. Which is all Tash Mashir's fault for rushing the DC stuff. Yeah.
They need a big hit, basically. They need that one movie where everyone agrees, yes, this is a truly great movie, it's back on the map. There was a big turnout there for Suicide Squad. The crowd was packed, even in a day screening that I went to. So there is still an audience for that. And it's not that I want to see DC fail, fanboys, okay? I want to see them prevail. I want to see them succeed, but they just need to get that action plan together. They need to just hit it out the park with their next couple of films. And I hope Wonder Woman and Justice League do that, but we'll have to see when they roll around. Overall opinions, I'd still recommend checking out Suicide Squad. It's a deeply flawed movie. It's not perfect, but it was entertaining enough for me. I had fun in some aspects of the film, and it was just nice seeing a new Joker, Batman there, Harley Quinn on screen, and just all these characters that I've always wanted to see on the big screen be there. So cautious buy for me. It's a very average movie, but it's definitely not the worst superhero film I've seen all year. I've pretty much said everything on the movie. If you have, George, and we'll round out.
See the film, give it your thoughts. You might like it, you might hate it, you might be averaged about it. It's different. Although it's so paint by the numbers, it's different to see a team of villains.
But it still fits very much in the current cinematic universe, I think.
Oh yeah. It suits it, but it's a massive letdown. And don't see it if they announce a David Ayer cut. If they announce the David Ayer cut, wait, but I don't think they will. I think it'll be too radical in terms of changes for them to do that. But it's a shame. I enjoyed it though. I know I'm flat and nasty on it, but it has its moments. It is a bit fun, but it's just not what it should have been.
And that's the thing with the edit. Like, I don't think we'll get it because how much more money has to be put into it. Especially, I think this has got to make like 800 million to break even, because the marketing for this movie was absolutely insane. But I would like to see that cut, but it depends how much money they're willing to put into it. I mean, they did for Batman v Superman, so hopefully they will with this one. But that will do it for our review on Suicide Squad. Be sure to comment, subscribe, let us know what you thought of the movie. How do you think it married up next to Man of Steel and Batman v Superman? Anything about DC at all, please do comment. Keep your comments civil, though. We didn't hate the movie, so please don't bash us in the comments. In terms of what's coming up on the channel, there'll be a lot more reviews from us. I know we've got Pete's Dragon this week. Other big movies coming out to kind of round out the summer movie season. I'll be jumping on reactions as well. There'll be the final video of Star Wars Celebration content to edit. And then at the end of the month, we've got Timestamp 0, Episode 5. You can vote on that. They've got the straw poll link in the description, so please do just pick a film on that. Just vote for it. And then at the end of the month, we all get on a commentary and watch that movie. There'll be another episode of Battle of the Brackets in a couple of weeks' time. We've got our picks for that. It's best sports movie moments, isn't it? I think that one. So we've got that in place, and we just need to get on, find a time and record that one. So a lot of stuff happening with the channel. Please do hit that subscribe button. It is the best way to keep updated with all of our content. And until the next video, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.